Welcome to the inaugural Social Security Nerds podcast. I'm Mike Hayflick, along with my partner, Russ Geiser. Russ and I have embraced Social Security claiming strategies and the complexity that it brings, so you don't have to. Russ, today in our inaugural episode, we're going to talk about that fear people have about whether or not the Social Security funds will run dry. Will they run out someday?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think we get it all the time in the workshops that we teach all over the country. There's always one person that says, we heard it's running out. And can you talk a little bit about that? So we felt what a better way to, there's not a better way to address it than talking about this specific thing today.
That's my favorite thing is when we talk about these things with each other and with people. We hear people say, well, my parents did this, or my brother told me that, or my dentist said, you better take that Social Security or it could be gone someday.
Right.
We love that, but we don't love it because we know that there are far better ways to make that decision. So let's just talk about the fund that pays people Social Security income. It's called the Old Age Survivor and Disability Insurance Fund, and it gets funded in three different ways. Predominantly, over 86% is through payroll, the FICA tax. You might see that on your pay stub, right? The FICA Med, maybe for the Medicare Trust Fund. That's a whole nother topic.
Mm-hmm.
But the FICA tax of 6.2% that you might pay, and if you're self-employed, double that. That's part of it. 10% then is paid from the interest that's made within the OASDI fund. And then only about 4% is from the taxation of Social Security income benefits themselves. So, Russ, why on earth can they not figure this out? We see this, that the trust funds of the Social Security Administration, they say that we're projected to run out in 2035.
And that's the headline everybody sees, right? Social Security will run out in 2035. Well, what a way to create panic. And it's partially true. So the Social Security Trust Fund, if nothing happens to it, nothing has changed legislatively, that will run out by 2035 projectedly. However, will the benefit stop paying? No. Still roughly 80% of the benefit will be payable just through payroll taxes. And so what we always tell people is that no, it won't run out, and that 80% of it will be payable. But I guess the question remains is, well, we want 100% of it payable. So what can actually be done to fix it? Now, we do believe it'll be fixed because far too many people only live on Social Security. And so we think there'd be a pretty big problem if it wasn't.
Yeah, one of the things I think that it is so easy for the media and for politicians to strike fear in us, right? Because it's a big headline. The headline, Social Security funds may run dry. It's like, whoa, like how many readers are you going to get from that headline, right? A lot. And instead of actually taking a more pragmatic and I'd say even courageous approach, legislators are often too political and they're not problem solvers. And that's where I think this really always becomes an issue. It's always an election item to talk about, right? The other guy is going to cut your Social Security benefits. The other guy doesn't want to fix this program. And honestly, Russ, who on earth would ever say, oh yeah, if I'm down by 17 to 20% in 2035 from Social Security, no problem.
Yeah, it's going to be a political football, we think, until until it has to be acted on. 10 years is a long time legislatively. Our view is that they've already done things to kind of fix it before. Yes. And the first thing they've done was they've been pushing back the full retirement age of benefits. Mm-hmm. And so I actually can't recall off the top of my head the earliest. I think 65 was was the first 65. Full retirement age. And then that gradually was pushed back. And now it's, if you were born in 1960 or later, it's 67. And all that simply means is your full amount of your benefit value age. So if you claimed at 67, if you were born in 1967 or later, that's your full benefit, your primary insurance amount. We call that a PIA. And so one thing we think they'll likely do is move that farther out for people who are younger.
Yeah, and that could help. It basically will help in how the formula determines what your benefits will be. And Russ, you know my two daughters are in their 20s. I don't think it'll be that impactful if my two daughters are impacted by some rule change now for a benefit that they might take in their early 60s or as late as 70. Let's just talk about these funding sources. If 86% of the fund is funded by payroll tax, let's look at the history for a second. 1937, there was a 2% tax, right? 2%. That tax is now 6.2%. But Russ, it's been 6.2% since 1990. And that's what the individual, you and I, and if you're self-employed like Russ and I, we pay double. Usually an employer will pay that other half, the other 6.2. But 12.4% from each individual who is working to pay for this, isn't it possible? And isn't it even, it's somewhat common sense that they should just consider raising that rate as time goes on, as prices go up?
Yeah, they could raise that. And the other thing too, though, is that rate is only applicable for those workers earning a certain amount of money per year. So I think the limit is 168,000. It goes up typically every year, close to that though. So if you make more than that in a year, you actually don't pay any more into this tax. So you're capped. The Medicare version of that though is uncapped essentially. And so that's really low hanging fruit, is they could just
absolutely
get rid of the ceiling for high income earners, and that could be a potential solve.
This doesn't have to be one big fell swoop of dramatic changes. It could be a series of subtle adjustments to these rules. But the problem, again, is legislators do not act like problem solvers. They act too much like politicians. They're too concerned and too focused on staying in office. We need to get people in Washington who decide that they were going to be problem solvers and actually push things through. And yes, maybe be labeled as, oh, this is someone who wanted this or that or the other thing. But I think historically speaking, Russ, anybody who's courageous enough, they're going to actually be looked upon as the ones who fixed Social Security for the long haul, like for decades to come. They're going to be looked at favorably. And I think that's where they get it wrong. I think people who see problem solvers are actually okay with it. I think they're okay with subtle adjustments. And I don't think they have to do anything to alter what people currently getting Social Security benefits are getting. I mean, there's lots of time, right? Lots of time. Over a decade, we could still fix this. Change things for people younger. I mean, younger people can adjust and adapt to whatever the legislative changes might be.
Right. So if you're in that age, or you're getting close to retirement, or you've just retired and you're trying to figure out when you should claim your benefit, I wouldn't put a lot of stock into your benefit running out. However, one thing you might want to consider, if they didn't do anything, if you're one of those people who just thinks, nope, only 80% of the benefit will be payable, then it would probably be a good idea to claim later, because 80% of a bigger number for the biggest, likely the biggest guaranteed income source of your life that's inflation adjusted, will be bigger than if you claimed early. You can claim as early as 62 or as late as 70. I'm not saying claim at 70, but again, 80% of your benefit, if you really truly think that nothing will change, you want that number to be bigger.
Yeah. Just number sense, right? That's the way the numbers would work.
For sure.
Again, sometimes the fear that they want to strike in us about the fund evaporating, going bankrupt, it actually makes you lead to a quick decision, right? Get it while you can. In our opinion, as Russ said, getting it while you can just doesn't make sense. Let's take a more pragmatic approach. And that's what Russ and I can do in the work that we do as retirement income specialists and being certified in the Social Security claiming strategies area.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason we founded our company, Retirement Income Headquarters of America. Really, it's our mission to bring this information to the forefront, allow people to make the best claiming decision with Social Security as the cornerstone of their retirement income plan, and then drive the advice off of that, because we really truly think that it's about income first and then growing your assets later, making sure you're using the least amount of your own retirement capital that you saved and worked hard to save your entire working career.
We appreciate you tuning in, folks. Again, this is the inaugural episode of many, many more to come. Feel free to scan the QR code on your screen to reach our website, incomeplanhq.com. We will be back again next week.
Yeah, keep an eye out. Mondays weekly is our plan to drop new videos, new podcasts on multiple different topics as it relates to Social Security benefits and retirement income planning. Have a great week.
Thanks for joining us.